He's just back with another one. So yesterday I was gonna do this reading. It was gonna be titled "No More Monkeys Jumping in the Bed." And this baboon thought it was smart to call me to tell me about all these different ventures that they were going on that they wanted to include me in. Mind you, this is the same individual that triggered my awakening, right? I just got a message that said out for delivery, back brace. Okay. This person probably was like a backpack full of books. You know, back in the day when you had to carry all those textbooks in order to study at home. This person was that heavy of a burden. Okay. And this person was a Jezebel spirit. They would manipulate people in order to achieve their own selfish gains, regardless to how it affected others. Okay. Mm. So no more monkeys in the bed just basically came to me out of nowhere, because these flying monkeys, they tend to use their tail, okay, in order to achieve what they want from a person, sex magic, as well as manipulation magic. You know, I'm firm on letting y'all know about genjutsu, fixed. So this person definitely was fixated on having the world revolve around them. Okay, Aquarius energies here, double Aquarius energy. This person was very creative. Some people are chosen. Some people actually have gifts that they reject. This particular energy here, this person is fixated on some form of stardom that eludes this person. Okay? Y'all ever heard of the color purple? How Celie was like, until you do right by me. This person caused a karmic backfire inside of their life early on that causes them to have these creative expressions like a fallen angel, have these creative expressions, but it will not come into fruition because their alignment is not where it needs to be. Okay. I have the Empress, Justice, and the Nine of Wands. This person did something against the divine feminine energy. Prior to meeting you or whomever this energy is that operates from the divine frequency of the feminine energy, they basically don't know what it is that they need to change about themselves because they love what they do in order to achieve the little minimal validation from others that they gain. Someone possibly has a hard time releasing the feelings of resentment for achievements that they weren't able to actually get. Okay. That could be along the lines of a promotion that you didn't get or um, a position that you didn't land when applying for some form of job, a loan that you weren't approved for. This is that person's energy, this karmic individual. No more monkeys jumping in the bed. This person was the type of person like how you would see on movies. The girl gets this rich guy, and then she ends up sleeping with him and doing all of these things in order to get his good graces. That's basically what that means. Okay. This person was willing to sacrifice and sell themselves short for small gains, because I have here the Seven of Pentacles. That's my gold digging card. As soon as I move the Seven of Pentacles, I see this. So that's confirmation. Some people call them like a romance scammer. Okay. That's why you are supposed to have discernment so you can tell and weed these energies out, trying to pull you back into that energy of desperation, desire. They use their looks, Venusian energy, seventh house energy, in order to gain some form of uh, contractual agreement, because the seventh house is also the house of marriage. Okay, so that's triple confirmation about where this message is going. I also want to digress real fast just to get you guys to understand. I'm doing this literally in the present moment. None of these cards do anything other than validate the message that I give. Usually people want to associate tarot card reading with a form of divination. I'm digressing. I'm gonna get back into the story. Divination as like a cheat way to gain access, because you can gain access without cards. These are just tools. But some people don't know that there's steps further up inside of the seven heavens, is what I'm gonna call it, where you can just tap in from using this right here, your third eye. And I wanted to digress just to break it down for whoever is inspired to get cards and read, that these are only tools, and you should always start with your shadow work first. Once you complete that, you will be able to decipher the energies more discerningly, um, and you'll be able to achieve a heightened perspective of how to see the energies in real life. Okay. Um, but yeah, I don't need the cards. These are just confirmations for whoever is watching. Okay, so back to the reading. This romance scammer, listen, I pulled this card up, right? It is the Five of Cups in reverse. This card is underneath it, the Lovers. This person possibly it was involved with a form of family play, like kissing cousins and stuff like that. Um, I only say that because when people are trying to achieve something, they're willing to do whatever it takes in order to get that point. And they will use anyone to achieve their hidden motives. No more monkeys jumping in the bed. One fell off and bumped their head. So when you think about that, right, the head is the first house. When I slay demons, off with their head, off with this persona that people want to show people in public, how people view you. That is the ego. That is the first house energy. Okay. When I slay demons, I make them think twice about how people view them, because if I can see this about you, don't you think other people can? And they're just not saying anything? When you do stuff like that, that changes the parameters of what a narcissist or someone who is deeply involved with selfish gains thinks of themselves. Okay? And that's because their validation comes from others. That's why they need to sleep with so many people. That's why they need attention from so many people. That's why they need praise from so many people. Because that's an injury. It's an injury that stems from childhood, from not passing the test. Because ever since childhood, everyone carries a test. Everyone is called, but only few answer. It's a frequency, it's an understanding. Why does this seem to trigger me? Why does this bother me? And this person, this romance scammer, avoided the healing, avoided the call, because this person was only focused on financial matters. And it's perfectly fine to enjoy the fruits of your labor. But when your labor comes from the back of someone who carries this Queen of Cups energy, which is really like the intuitive divine feminine energy, very deep, very compassionate, love energy that the Queen of Cups emits brings from the depths prosperity. It brings from the depths knowledge, wisdom. It brings from the depths protection. It brings from the depths dark night of the soul. Okay. So this promiscuous masculine energy, male or female, because women do operate from that energy as well. And partnerships. This person operated like a dark high priest or a dark empath. They're more cold and calculated, but that's like the fallen angel type of energy. Okay. So the King of Wands came out. So this possibly could be a fire sign. Let me just show you guys. Okay. This could possibly be a fire sign because it came out. It wasn't energy at first, but it's solidified now. This person possibly has fire sign energies inside of their chart in their houses. That's significant. Or this person may just well be a fire sign. Confirmation with the sun. Okay. They feed off of, like I said, praise. This is the ego. Sun is the ego. Okay. Sun is the soul energies that causes your expression to be what it is. Forever childlike in nature, because the ego really doesn't develop like an age or maturity. Okay. That's the eternal child. That's why people call him the child of God, because you have that I am God's favorite energy when you actually have a connection. And that's true because we're all God's favorite. But when you lose favor and lose sight, like this individual who wanted to have the titles, use the lingo in order to gain, because the Hierophant came with the Knight of Pentacles. Now, this person in particular, this person is going through what many people go through when they have to pay karma. No more monkeys jumping in the bed. No one else is trying to lay in the bed that this person has made. And news is spreading about how they attacked someone who was innocent, like that public scrutiny thing. How they wanted to win at all costs. The Five of Swords here against the Queen of Cups. This energy, possibly a Pisces energy here. Mm. Confirmation of the Pisces because I just expelled gas and that portion of the body is 12th house energies. When they be like confirmation after a belch and all that stuff, this is another digress. Your body is still connected with the universal mapping of reality. As above, so below really means that. As within, so without really means that. What you experience physically, you can also associate it to the anatomy, the spiritual anatomy of the body. There's the physical anatomy and there's the spiritual anatomy. Usually, when people belch, they say confirmation, right? That's because it's the truth coming up. It is life being released upward. When it is a call to release something, typically people expel gas from the other end. And that is the 12th house energies of liberation, moksha house. You can do the research because it's very deep. It's the secrets hidden from the world, as well as overseas travel, inheritance to an extent, and imprisonment, organizations, that type of thing. And this individual, as I get back into the reading, I'm sorry. This individual wanted to basically barter with someone who was innocent with money, transactionally trying to pay or purchase love. And when it's coming from a person who has genuine expression of love, when it's not met with that same energy, do understand it won't work because there's no reciprocity of energy. There's no connection completing the circuit, is what I'm going to call it, with electricity. Y'all ever did the experiment in school with the batteries, and then you'll put the wire on a battery, and then you'll connect it to the light? But when you took the circuit and you remove the wire, you would still have that one streamlined single wire connecting to the light, but it would not illuminate. That is what happens in the lamest terms when someone tries to romance scam and achieve goals without actually putting in the work themselves because you're using other people's energy, but the circuitry isn't connected, it's not complete. Okay, and that's how I'm going to word that. And that's what is basically going against this person's dreams to achieve some form of prosperity here. Take it how it resonates, because if this is you, this is why you aren't able to completely get to that point. If this is someone else, this is why these bitches need not to play with a child of God. Do you hear me? Yeah, this fool. Okay. Yay. This fool is now hearing this person who has a connection to the divine, who is able to pull from spirit. So, whoever you are, you have taken authority over your life and you're starting to pour in, you're pull in, I'm sorry. your abundance from spirit, your alchemist is what I can see. But it had to come from some form of divine intervention that caused you to stop letting these monkeys jump in your bed. You know, when you have a big heart, you typically want to embrace everyone until you learn how to structure boundaries. Okay, when you listen to your Holy Spirit and become confident, you gain your confidence, you gain your stamina, and you gain your solidarity within yourself in order to protect your energy, set up these boundaries to prevent more betrayal. Okay, we have King of Pentacles. Let's see what this King of Pentacles is. I'm about to get the cards gathered up and see how many monkeys was jumping in this bed of yours. This bed of lies is what I'm hearing. Somebody was jumping in a bed of lies. Okay. Lay where you lie, bitch. Lay where you lie. Yeah. This sleeping monster. Because this King of Pentacles, his eyes is closed. So that gives me a prideful person. Someone who doesn't want to see what they're doing to other people in order to achieve this security, this false security. Okay? This person is a baby, like very childlike, because it looked like he carrying a rattle and a drum. Okay? That's what I'm seeing in it. But for you, in the mirror aspect, you would say you operate by faith and not by sight. And you operate on the beat of your drum. You see the duality of card reading. Okay. I'm just trying to help someone learning how to actually read these things the right way for how they were created. Okay. People freestyle with truth and sound silly to God because that's not what God intended. And this is what this person was like. They freestyle with God's creativity and they sound. This person possibly used to tell you all kinds of things, and you would just scratch your head. You just like, that don't make sense to me. How did you get that? I don't get that. It don't make sense. But you're not a dumb person. So you just like confirmation. You just like, I'm not gonna bother with it. I'm not gonna make it a big deal. Because you possibly the type of person because the Queen of Cups. Queen of Cups don't like confrontation. She'll flush you with emotions whenever the time is right. But Queen of Cups don't like confrontation. They rather have things go peacefully. Okay? Yeah. With the Ten of Cups at the bottom of the deck. That's probably why when I gave the duality of this energy from this King of Pentacles, this position forces people to either like grow strength. Okay. I was about to say nut up because in New Orleans, like, you just toughen up and we call that nut up. Okay. You had to toughen up because you saw that this person was gaslighting you. This person was future faking you. And this person was making it sound better than what it really was ever able to achieve or become. Okay? Let me back. Okay, let's see. Give me something, Holy Spirit. What's this energy with the King of Pentacles? Three of Wands tried to come up. So this is a group of people. This is a relationship of people. I'm seeing multiple aspects because the first card out with the world. Okay. So that's the only card I didn't shuffle back into the deck. What I see is there's a couple here that needs to move along or there's a couple here that's going to help you gain motion or traction in some type of climate towards your emperorship. These people took you for granted. They took you as a joke. They took you as a key. Okay? They didn't have your best interest in mind. These people really tried to get this new beginning off the back of your actual work. You know, some people put on the persona of the type of people that you would want to be around, but these people know better. These people were possibly addicts. These people were possibly overindulgent in escapist behaviors because I also mentioned Pisces energy, which is also the escapist energy. You know, you're trying to get back into the oneness the wrong way when you don't do the work. Now these people are stuck. Their finances is drying up. They use some form of calculated strategy in order to achieve infiltrate in your energy. And that ended them with 10 swords in their back. Okay, 10 plus 8 is 18. That's 9 swords. These people are in spiritual jail. When I say spiritual jail, it is the equivalent of being locked up in a prison, but you're free. You could be surrounded by a whole lot of people and still be in spiritual jail. You can't create anything. You feel like you're on a routine. You don't have the freedom to express yourself. You don't know how to think about what you're thinking because God is going to make it so hard for you to be in one energy. You know, God's going to send other people to mix up your energy just because that's what you did to a person who was unknown. Not you, collective, but me expressing in general what this energy means. So take what resonates and leave what does not. Typically, you won't have to experience spiritual jail when you understand how you got there in the beginning. And that's usually because of some physical binding that you created, or this person. I'm going to start saying these people or this energy created to satiate a selfish endeavor. When you operate from fullness, you don't go to spiritual jail. You don't even feel this energy. You know why? Because you know better. You know you're not going to do certain things because you understand the universal code of conduct. Okay? God is like a principal. And when you get that all called to the principal's office, there's no more confusion. There's only enlightenment. There's only balance of your masculine and feminine energies. When people have to be hyper masculine or think that being one way that they saw other people do it is what you're supposed to do, you're absolutely mistaken. You know, my personality is ality of energy. Um, that has to be master achieved through enlightenment in order to actually find self. There's a word I've been using lately. It's called what's the word? When someone does performative. Okay, someone is performative in this energy. Okay, these people were casting an illusion and they were working together with a group. Mind you, I keep going back to this card because they're fixated. These people don't want to make the right decision. They don't want to invest inside of this energy, which is how they betrayed you. because they were not investing in you, they were using you. No more monkeys jumping in the bed. When you jump in the bed and bump your head, the doctor said, no more monkey jumping in the bed. Emperor, clearing out the kingdom. Intimacy, how can I explain this? Intimacy is a very tricky thing. We desire connection, but when you're whole, the type of connection that you desire, right, is wholesome as well. You don't seek people who are only in for the physical aspects. You can really feel the creation, the co creation, when you're dealing with someone who is whole themselves in the spirit. Spiritually, the, the actual act of intimacy, bedroom intimacy, you don't have to just create children, okay? If you have a mutual connection where both batteries have a connection to the terminals as well as the light bulb, you're able to bring illumination in the spirit down to the physical because you share the vision. Only God can create. So if you are dealing with someone, or if this energy is dealing with someone, and they think that they can bypass what was already made clear before our incarnation because of selfish earthly attachments to validation outside of self, they typically, how can I put this? It's just fornication. It's just pleasures of the flesh. And monsters are born because shadows come from lack of vision. The shadow being someone feel unrequited in their expression. They don't feel themselves. They feel used. They feel stolen from. Okay? It's because they're stealing your energy sexually. They're siphoning it. And that's how they begin their ventures off of your energy because that's the energy to create, regardless to if it's a child, a business, um, a painting, regardless to what it is, it comes from that energy. Okay. And when people sleep with you and you're not getting anything from it, they're stealing from you. If you're not sharing a vision, they're stealing from you. They're not giving you anything. They're taking from you. They don't have to just spend money. That's why when I looked at people from the angle of prostitution, you get compensated for your body. Then it's just like, why don't people agree with that when it's more honest than using someone for pleasure? Because it's selfish, if it's not shared, a shared vision or a shared scope. You know, women who just want some dick, why is it that you just want some dick if you happy? That comes from a place of something that wasn't healed within, men included. You don't just feel that way when you're whole. You don't need that type of connection when you have a connection to source. We all share that connection. That's why the monkeys, these flying monkeys in the bed, they're basically trying to find that connection to source again through you. And they're stealing your energy in order to achieve that closeness. But it all plunders because it's not a genuine connection. Okay? That goes back to the light bulb. It's literally the same thing. I'm trying to break it in a way where it's more understandable. But this person, these people, these people were drunk with their power to manipulate this Ahab and Jezebel energy, working together to make a person stifle in a decision. They didn't want this person to grow up with their perspective of these people or this energy because impulsive selfish gains, self gratification, immediate gratification in the moment is what I'm hearing. In the moment, it might feel like the thing to do. These flawed, beautiful creatures, and they want you to forgive them and move forward. Yeah, you are, but you also need to remove them from your bed so they're not jumping on your springs. Okay? They done bump their head. They having an ego death. Okay? These romantic partners, these scammers, they're having an ego death because of their impulsive nature. And you don't react to their energies. You're spiritually abundant. You're the type of person that went through this already, possibly with a past lover that woke you up to this energy and this perspective of how people can be. You knew these people were doing what they were doing, and you just mirrored their energy back because you're like a divine mirror, possibly, that you inherited that gift. You were possibly like karma. They didn't want to listen to you. They didn't want to understand your authority spiritually. They didn't understand that you basically guard the fountain of wisdom. Okay? Because your Akashic records, your Kundalini is open. You've reached the bridal chamber with the twin flame journey. You know, God is only going to let this be seen by people who have already began the journey or they completed the journey. I noticed that I don't even get like people anymore. I get people who have already ascended or are already in the process of ascending. This don't de- These messages don't be nothing but confirmation for whoever needs to hear it. And that's because people, the archons, will try to make you feel like you're crazy, make you feel like you don't know what you're talking about, make you feel like you're juggling your reality with your fantasies, that you're walking blindly off of a cliff, you know. So these messages don't be nothing but confirmation. That's why it don't matter who likes what I'm saying or not, because it happened or it's happening in someone's life. And there's these energies that try to siphon you to depletion so they can destiny swap with you because they lack a genuine, authentic connection with Source. Heaven is actually a place that you achieve from within. And that's why they say, seek ye first the kingdom of heaven and everything else will be added. Okay? These people try to dwell in your temple that you need to protect at all times. Ooh, yay. And walk away from these strength siphoners. these strategic thieves of intellectual properties. Because, like I said, the kingdom of heaven is within you. Okay? God has put such a hand on this lifetime that God has even shown God's self through science, which is intellectual properties. These people touch you, and it's a part of intellectual properties. People like myself, we can come around and we can feel the information within you in your awareness. So if we can do that, these people who need your connection do that by getting into your energy, being the monkey on your bed. Okay? Plain and simple. Plain and simple. People can kiss in their energies, see if they're able to be together. Okay? And that's something that was scientifically proven. It's the same difference. Okay? Let me get some more of these cards. No more monkeys jumping on the bed. These people possibly shared a house with you or shared a space with you. They're probably roommates or they're probably like people who shows up all the time. Even if you don't want them to come over, they're just like acting like they fuck with you just to get in your energy. Stop letting people do that. Please stop letting people do that. If you don't want to bother with bitches, let them hoes know you don't want to be bothered. Stop abandoning yourself. Somebody possibly having issues with their sugar or their eyesight. Someone's possibly a diabetic. Be mindful about your health at this time. Wheel of Fortune came out again. Mind you, I picked it up and it came right back out. So this person possibly might be a Taurus, Aquarius, Leo, or Scorpio. Or you may have these prominent placements. Okay. It'll always be the sun sign. Remember, I am a astrologer. Well, I'm not gonna say I am, but I have the sight to understand astrology. I don't look at just sun signs. I look at degrees, planetary placements, ruling planets, where it's placed inside of your houses, different astrologies, and how it correlates with who you are. I know the whole fingerprint of astrology. So when you hear me say a sign, just understand you don't know what I'm talking about until I say I know what I'm talking about. It's just generalized so that your Holy Spirit can discern where it needs to be placed. Okay? I don't like when people listen to readers and the readers say a specific sign. If you don't know astrology, don't allow your mind to go everywhere but where it needs to be. I really don't like when it, because that's confusion. That's real life confusion. Okay? Like, say for instance, I say Aquarius. I have Aquarius in my third house. So that would be like Gemini energy. And Gemini is in my eighth house, Scorpio energy. You see how the energies is where like the Holy Spirit is guiding me to put it. And it's not just the sun sign. You know, people lose track of what the Spirit is trying to tell them by allowing what they think to basically confuse them of what's being told to them. And that's a form of confusion magic. Sometimes people don't want to be figured out. So they send confusion magic in order to make you not get it by distracting you with bullshit that does not matter. Okay? That's the only reason why I'm telling y'all this. Whoever is hearing this message, understand what the problem is so you can find the solution as opposed to the sign that's being mentioned because it's energy that comes from that sign. Okay. Characteristics, that these people might be displaying in order to achieve their outcome that they're seeking or the reaction that they want. You know, I'm gonna shuffle these cards up a little more and I'm just gonna pull them from the top of the deck. High Priestess and the Hanged Man. High Priestess Pisces energy, Hangman Pisces energy, double 12th house energy, okay, with the Wheel of Fortune. I have Libra in my 12th house. I'm a Scorpio rising with Sagittarius, Jupiter in my first house. I have Maharaj, which is a very powerful connection in my astrology chart. Naturally, I'm a spiritual guru. Okay. I'm a life path 11. Okay. A master intuitive from birth. I don't do this because I want the recognition. I do this because I want people to see things clearly. Okay. I understand this, but I notice that a lot of people get taken advantage of because they don't. That is why this is so important because confirmation, it releases truth, it releases understanding, clarity. Okay. That is why it's important. It helps keep the flying monkeys off of the bed. Okay. The bed of lies. All right. Like I told y'all though, I'm going to go from the top of the deck. Give me something. They don't want you to walk away from them. When people be afraid that you're gonna leave their ass. Leave their ass. Cause what you scared of? We all connected. What you scared of? If it's meant, it's gonna come back around. You know what I'm saying? And I'm not saying that in the sense of if it's a good person, don't try to strengthen the connection. I'm saying when motherfuckers aggravate you and you know you don't want to be around them, stop putting yourself last. Don't make your happiness and their happiness your responsibility. It's only about your happiness. I can understand being a kind person, being a nice person generally, because I am. But I even had to learn this. Boundaries. These energies only trying to come siphon your energy because their depleted state is operating from what they already have. And that's really like a life force energy, not like a sage energy. It don't come from around them. It come from their lifespan. Okay? Think about Naruto and how when you run out of chakra, you pass out. Naruto had the nine-tailed fox and he was a sage. Okay? Catch him. Everybody else would be done fell out. Unless you got like some gift like Tsunade, where she could heal herself and heal everybody around her. You know, you have that abundant of stored energy. Yeah. when you know how to control and protect your energy, yeah. But these people that we're talking about right now, collective, they're the complete opposite. You could tell by how they always are eager to get praise from people. Okay. And what's not more praiseworthy because they say sex sells, you know, that's why they be having these body centered men thinking that it's about what they look like or how big their phallus is. And these women who, they're self validated women. We're going to get that corrected. And they're self validated men. There definitely are. But you can tell the difference by how they look at themselves and view what they've done in their life. It's one thing to be proud of yourself, and it's another thing to be hubris with yourself. These people weren't investing in truth. You see this motherfucker keep coming out, and I just pulled that one off the top of the thing. They were invested in truth. You see justice at the bottom of the thing. Y'all watching me shuffle these cards. Okay, this person, you saw through this energy already. This false, stable person. People be having so many things they like to talk about, but don't be doing shit. Don't be doing shit in their real life. That's this person. And that's what made you decide to move on, move forward, and get out of this connection with this individual. This person used their past achievements as a vessel to mislead you, to get in your walls, to get in your foundation. Use emotions, patch emotional hurts, or if you're the type of person like myself, you like to talk about things that really are meaningful. And what people do when they assume that they can use these testimonies against you, they will play on your kindness or they'll play on how you were in those stories in order to build a false perception of a connection with you, to keep siphoning your energy, to gain some form of success off of your title. Okay? And remember, you're always the mirror. So you're actually in this King of Pentacles energy. These people are trying to mirror that back to you just because this is how they view you. Male or female, it makes no difference. Okay? You worked hard for this. They slept with people for this because they operate from the spirit of Jezebel. Okay? Which leads to heartbreak. Because when you operate from genuine energy, when people do things like this, it make you feel like, damn, what did I do? What happened? Why you feel like you had to do that in the first place? You could have just been real. You could have just kept it 100. You could have just let me know and I would have helped you. And nothing else had to come from it. When you're a genuine person, these people didn't understand that because they're not genuine. They're not genuine. They don't even love themselves. This could also even be family or people in the community that you share a living space with inside of a city. Okay. Yeah, you possibly had to leave, take a vacation, just get out the way for a second, because sometimes these energies try to attack you, but they are able to get into anyone who is susceptible. 5445 when I say this, who is ever susceptible to these energies, not knowing how to protect themselves. That's why our people perish because of a lack of knowledge. You know, they don't know no better. That's why it's not against the flesh that we wage war against. That's why it's so important for you as the collective to have authority over your energy so you could prevent these circumstances from going further into the well of time. See? Clarity. Top card. The sun. You can see these energies clearly. So, being that if you can see these energies clearly, you can address it. You can call the demon out by its name. Usually it's the person's name. You call that person out, and the monkey is going to jump and it's going to bump his head. First house energy, ego death. That's what they need, a ego death. Because when you surrounded by ego, you just think that you just not wrong. You don't consider other people's feelings just because you're trying to pursue a selfish goal, immediate gratification, no patience, no wisdom comes from that because you don't think about it. You're just doing it. Yeah, I don't think before I speak, but it took wisdom to get to that point. I had to work until I got to that point where I trusted myself 100%. These people don't trust themselves. They ask everybody for help and don't even listen for real. Why waste your time with someone like that in the first place when you know better? Top card, a burden. Why would you want to burden yourself when you see it already? Hold that cycle. Mind you, the world in the Wheel of Fortune, Aquarius, Taurus, Scorpio, Leo energy. Again, again. So these people not trying to change. They're fixated on this. They're going to keep going around in this circle. Both of these depict a circle. Even if the circle is a little bit longer, elongated, elongate, oblong, they will continue going around in this same circle because they dumb. They dumb. They are insane. These are the type of people that will literally, not figuratively, literally do the same thing over and over and over again and expect a different result. No change in perspective, no change in attitude, no change in anything. They don't want to see the difference. They don't want to see the similarities. They don't want to see anything but what they want. It don't work like that. It don't work like that. Five of Swords, winning at all costs. Yeah, and then carrying two, three, thinking with logic over heart energies, not making a decision, allowing things to just go as the wind blows. People who lack the capacity do shit like that. Confirmation. They just do shit like that. They don't do anything, is what they say. But the strategy in it is what makes it so diabolical and atrocious. Because that's the card they play when confronted. That's what makes it so difficult to pin them down once you've gained insight on what these bitches are doing. It'd be like, also, bitch, you gonna act like you ain't doing nothing, you ain't did nothing wrong. I'm just crazy, I'm just overreacting. No, sister, brother, you're not overreacting. That was the strategy. That is what throwing stones and hiding their hands look like. That's why you need to close the cycle on those types of people. Okay? Because there's no change. If they don't see what they did wrong, there's no change. If they don't see what they're doing right, there's no advancement in how to do it even more righteously. They're just doing because they saw somebody else do it. We're in tarnation. We're in tarnation is the growth. There is none. Why would you be around people that aren't trying to grow or develop? You're wasting your life, you're wasting your time. Think about it. Where's the challenge? In self. Because you have to want to do it for yourself. Fuck me. I'm here already. Fuck that next bitch. Because they there already. Wherever the fuck they at. It's for you. It's for the person themselves. And these people don't want that. They'll rather be flailing around in addictions and shit instead of protecting their energy. Escapist behaviors, running away from reality instead of confronting it. Going into self, dark places inside of themselves, pulling out the wisdom, you know, gaining the strength, the ability to change your reality. Because you know, they say your perspective of the world shapes it. And that's the truth. That's why when you find the kingdom of heaven, instead of walking around in this lack mindset, I can't. That's not real. You know, scared, fearful. You underachieve. You know, you underachieve. That part, cool minds. You gotta look into these things. And I put it right over here next to the Page of Swords, Strength, Five of Swords, and the Seven with the Page of Cups. You have to look into these things and just envision it from an aerial perspective so you can see the whole playing field instead of what's in front of you. Okay. You see how in this picture, right? Let me get the other card that has this in it. That is the same person. This is the same person. But that all comes from the inner work. Okay. Having to move forward. You cannot be this bitch. You cannot be these bitches that just want to sit up there and run around in a circle thinking that they're going to get somewhere other than where they are right now by doing the same thing. Because you were a hidden earth angel. When this is how I know for a fact. When you understand who you are and people come around and you already did different things. People, here's an example. People say, you're not supposed to say that when this happens because you're supposed to say XYZ, such and such, and so and so. A person who already got to this achievement level, mind you, I put the temperance energy next to the high priestess. The high priestess was next to these Pisces, Scorpios energies, right? The moon, the hangman. So you deeply understand this energy of, I chose not to do that. I know I could have done that, but I chose not to do that because I'm not guided or led to do so in this moment because of how your intentions are set up and you felt it. Okay, not your as in you collective, but me being a part of the collective, speaking to the people that you are speaking with. They are their intentions. You know those already because you've been there, done that. But these people don't see that because they've literally been doing that their entire life. Give it a little shuffle. Let's see here. I'm about to end this reading, y'all, because regardless, these people are in spiritual jail. These people are supposed to come around you and they were supposed to gain a higher perspective and a different insight, but they chalked you off as blasphemy. They chalked you off as blasphemy. They say, that's not how that's done. That's not how you do that. Because they didn't want to evolve. They wanted to have this cradle of pampering from everybody around them in this false reward system just so that they can feel justified and validated. But collective, this is your confirmation to let you know these bitches ain't going nowhere in life. They are literally going to be on this rat wheel for a couple more lifetimes until they want to wake up. And that's okay. That's perfectly fine. On a soul level, they got to do what they got to do voluntarily or involuntarily. Don't stagnate your soul growth for anyone else, regardless if they use the guise of love, the guise of intimacy, the guise of knowledge, the guise of wisdom, the guise of family, whatever title there could possibly ever be. Do not ever stifle your own spiritual growth for name beach. Shout out to Trina. Okay, because you're the baddest. Everyone should feel like they're the baddest. You know, I hate when people say no one's perfect. What the fuck you mean no one's perfect? What do you mean no one's perfect? I like when Kevin Gates said, I'm a perfect imperfection. Because if you're not perfect, then what exactly does perfect look like? God made you exactly how you were supposed to be made. It is your choice to use what God made you with, though. And that is what makes imperfection a thing. Using what you have to achieve what you were meant to be. But if you don't see it for yourself, no one else can. You know, that's the truth. That's the purpose of the whole journey, you know, building strength of character. Mm. Foundation. Death. What's this death energy? Double Scorpio energy with the death and the seven and the chariot with the two of pentacles, three of pentacles, three of cups. Because you see clearly these people's options are fading away. These people are starting to have to juggle their finances in order to achieve this witchcraft and this overindulgence. They possibly was using this money to pay for an addiction. It could be anything: gambling, sex, um, drugs. You know, these people killed their forward motion. So now there's about to be a complete halt, is what I'm hearing, in their life. They're going straight off of a cliff because of this mischievous energies that they've been putting into the atmosphere. And the divine is speaking on your behalf. And that's justice. But I'm gonna let you guys go. I do appreciate y'all being here. I'll probably make another video later on. I haven't been on as of recently as much as I would like. I just made a video, but it's been a couple weeks. I took a break because I feel like it was healthy. I needed it. So thank you all for your likes, your subscribes, your comments, your feedback. And thank you for still supporting me up to this point because I definitely appreciate it. I'm very grateful. And I will let you guys have a blessed, beautiful day. May the Lord keep watch between me and thee while we're absent one from another. Amen. Amen. And when I walk into the church, those hating bitches say, look, it's amen.